All right, guys, welcome to day one of Digital Learning Day. I think I'm just going to record myself teaching a little bit each day and have you perhaps do a little quiz, and we'll call it a day. So we are going into World War I, and today I just thought we would go over the long-term causes of World War I. So I hope you can see on this board behind me, we have three long-term causes that have an ism on the end: imperialism, nationalism, and militarism. And then also here at the bottom you have rival alliances. So by the end of this video, hopefully you'll have a better grasp of how imperialism, nationalism, militarism, and then the rival alliances build up and build up and build up and build up and eventually create a situation that was perfect for a huge, massive world war. Please excuse the paint on my hands. If you've noticed that, I've been doing some projects around the house, so I do have a little paint on my hands, so I apologize for that. All right, first of all, imperialism, you know all about that. Hopefully by now it's the last unit we covered. It's when your bigger and more powerful countries go around the world and start colonizing, looking for new sources of raw materials as well as new places in the world to sell their stuff. So you can imagine that competing over the same land, competing over the same colonies could certainly lead to tensions between nations, which could obviously lead to world wars. Now, nationalism, we've talked about a little bit. The way I usually explain it, it's like that intense school spirit you might have for your high school, or maybe you see this more in college football, like Georgia fans like myself. We feel very passionate about Georgia, and you know, every school feels that way. Well, nationalism is when you have that sort of spirit and that sort of pride, but you have it in your country or your nation. So if everybody's feeling like they're the best and the biggest and the strongest, you know, that could lead to tension. Just, you know, using the college football analogy again, fights at college football games in between fan bases are pretty common, and they're just fighting over football. That's magnified when it's fighting over, you know, your country and your country's pride. So nationalism between nations could certainly lead to tension as well, and we'll come back to that tomorrow when we talk about nationalism in this area called the Balkans. And then last thing is militarism, and that is when you just spend a whole lot of time and effort and energy and money building up your military, and that's something we saw, you know, Great Britain doing and Germany doing, and really every nation in Europe was building up their militaries. And when you spend that much time and energy on something, you're going to have a lot of pride in it, and you're going to want to show it off. So imagine a world where everybody was really pumped about their military and excited about their military, and it wouldn't take much for things to escalate and countries to want to show off their militaries, and the way you do that is in war. So imperialism, competing over colonies; nationalism, having intense pride for your nation and your country; militarism, you know, building up your militaries and wanting to show those off. Those three isms are definitely long-term causes building up to World War. Okay, the last one's a little bit more time-consuming to go over, but it's rival alliances. And it's like, I use a recess analogy for this one. At recess, when you're younger, you pick teams, and then once you pick teams, you don't just stand there and stare at each other. Like, once you pick teams, it's time to play. Okay, it's time to go play the game. Well, same thing in history. Once countries start picking teams, they're not just going to stand there and stare at each other. Something's going to happen, and in this case, it was a big bad war. So let me erase this board really quickly, and we'll break down these rival alliances. Let's see, brand new board. It's not real easy to erase yet. Okay, so hopefully you remember this guy named Otto von Bismarck. We went over him right before we let out of school. He was the one trying to unite Germany. If you remember, Germany was, you know, broken up into 39 different states, very loosely connected. And Otto von Bismarck used the 7 Weeks' War to unify the North. And then he picked a war with France. He tricked them into invading. It was called the Franco-Prussian War, and tricked them into invading with the hopes that the southern Germans would unite with the northern Germans. The analogy I used in class was, siblings might always fight each other, but when an outside force or a neighbor comes in and starts picking on one, the siblings would gang up, and that's what Bismarck's trying to do here, and that's what he did. These folks down here were Catholic. The northern Germans were Protestant, and they just didn't really want to group up together. They thought they were going to hell, and they just didn't want to unite. So by tricking France, picking a fight with France, tricking them into invading, it worked, and Germany is going to become unified, and it's going to be a brand new baby of a country, like an infant, a fragile infant of a country. Okay, so that's kind of where this whole alliance thing starts off. Otto has just now unified his country, and he's worried that France is going to be pretty bitter that they were tricked into declaring war, and then they got the crap beat out of them. So he's afraid they're wanting to maybe get some revenge, and he wants to be prepared in case that happens. So basically what he wants to go out and do for Germany, he wants to go out and get as many friends as possible for Germany. And if Germany has all the friends, that means France has no friends. So that's the goal right here. So